a track gets 1 million streams across all platforms, how much do you think the producer would make from that? Well, the figure is actually lower than you think. Roughly $750 if they're getting paid fairly, and if the artist is signed to a record label, it drops down to $390. That's not enough for anything, and that's why producers need other ways to make money, and in this video we're going to discuss 5 practical ways that I and my producer friends use to do that. Number 5 makes everything easier to do and can help you 10x your income. Watch until the end to find out. Number 1 is learning how to DJ. This was very obvious to me even back in the early days, but for whatever reason, a lot of producers are just not keen. It works best for dance, hip hop, and pop music. And if you make indie, for instance, then you can skip to the next income stream using the timestamps below. Think about the figures we spoke about in the intro. The artist in that track would make about $2,850 from the same track. And on top of that, they would get booked to perform and make, in most cases, the majority of their income. On the other hand, the producer, as far as that one track is concerned, they rely mainly on royalties. But if you learn how to DJ, you suddenly have a booking fee for your performances as well. This is a more practical and easy way for producers to make money. And what's nice is DJs have the privilege to play other people's music in their sets, so you don't have to rely on your own music all the time to perform. At this point, you might be thinking, well, DJing is a skill of its own and it takes time to learn, blah, blah, blah. And you'd be surprised just how wrong you are. As a producer, you already understand the structure of music, which is about 90% of what DJing is. You can learn how to play a decent set in one day, and that's not an exaggeration. I have a DJing course, but you don't have to get it. YouTube is enough to learn everything, but the course will be in the description anyway. The money DJs make from performing can range from like $200 all the way to like hundreds and thousands of dollars. But since this is a practical video, as somebody who doesn't have a big following, promoters would be comfortable paying you like $400 for a performance, which is enough for a lot of people. The second way to make money is by being a session producer. Now, this doesn't require you to learn anything except for maybe learning to work with people with you in the studio and listening to their suggestions. So this is basically when you go to somebody else's studio or they come over to your studio and you just work, but you don't get paid per project, you get paid per hour that you're there. So whether a track comes out or not, you're still getting paid, but it doesn't end there. Let's say you make 3 tracks in the space of like 4 hours. You'd be getting paid for the 4 hours and still be entitled to 50% of your publishing revenue on all 3 tracks. And you can also negotiate the master revenue as well. It's possible. The fee you charge for this obviously depends on your accolades, but getting paid for something that you would have been doing in your room anyway is always better. If you're new here, my name is Tozy, and on this channel we'll help music producers and DJs sharpen their skills, expand their knowledge, and monetize their passion. If that's something you're into, subscribe to the channel for more value. The third income stream is where I personally made the most amount of money in a single project, and that's sync licensing. If you're not on YouTube Premium, there's a chance that you saw an ad before this video, and in that ad there was music. Who do you think makes that music? It's producers like you and I, and in most cases, it's producers you've never heard of. This is in movies, social media ads, TV ads, and pretty much everywhere. So a brand buys the license from you to use your music for a specific amount of time. Anywhere from 3 months to a couple of years. The longer the period, the more you get paid. Sometimes they license an existing track from you, other times they ask you to make something from scratch. In that case, there'd be a production fee and a licensing fee. And it's not the typical $200 for a beat, it's way more. And this works for all kinds of genres. In fact, the more niche your music, the better. Because think about it, let's say there's a set scene in a movie or an ad. There isn't a lot of people who make music that would perfectly go with that scene. So if you make your music available for such opportunities, your chances skyrocket. And I know that getting your music out there for these opportunities is very hard, but there's a ton of websites that you can use for this. One that I can think of right now is Songtradr, but there's way more. There's also platforms that don't give you a fee for the use of your track, but makes your music available for YouTubers and freelance editors. For that, you get paid per download, and that is still licensing. Such platforms include Artlist, Epidemic Sound, and more. The next income stream is something that I personally don't do, but I have a brother who does it, and he was kind enough to share some info and stats of how much he makes on average per month, and that's BeatStars. I think most people watching this have heard of it and already know that it works best for hip-hop producers. For those of you who've never heard of it, it's a platform where producers post their beats and rappers and singers can lease them, so essentially you can make one beat and sell it 1,000 times. And I know that it could be a saturated market, but in 2024, what isn't? Plus, BeatStars has playlists that they push that anyone can submit to. And it doesn't matter how popular you are, it's just a matter of how good your beats are. Every beat submitted gets equal treatment, and what's nice is BeatStars puts producers first. So when someone leases or buys a beat from you, you are still entitled to 50% of the publishing revenue. My brother DNA does this, and on a good month he makes around $1,500, and on a bad one about half that. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel below because he gets into way more detail and he knows this way more than I do, and some of you guys might have questions that only he can answer, so check the description for his channel. The lost income stream is something that a lot of producers don't want to get into for whatever reason, and it makes everything mentioned in this video a lot easier to do. And when you do this, more often than not, the opportunities come to you instead of you having to chase them, and that is creating content. Think about it. I was able to do everything mentioned in this video except for BeatStars, all because I make content on the internet. I DJ at events because I make videos of myself DJing. Multiple brands have come to me for sync licensing, all because of the content I make. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I do have a big audience on the internet, and that allows me to charge a bit more than the average producer for my services. But that's not where I started. I was taking advantage of these things even when I had a much smaller audience. And I think any producer who doesn't want to make content is, I guess, comfortable where they are, and you can't force people to do things they don't want to do. But if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, it's start making content. If you do that, the opportunities will follow you. Just like what I mentioned where I made $10,000 for a 30-second beat that took me like 2 hours to make. To get the specifics of how that happened, click here and I'll see you there. Thank you for watching.